In this video, we're going to explore the concept of equivalent units. To do that, we have to understand the manufacturing process. We're going to use a factory that manufactures cookies to do that. Production is a continuous process. So, what does that mean? Production starts with raw materials, like sugar, flour, and eggs. These are mixed in an industrial mixer, and the cookies are injected onto baking sheets. Then they're baked in industrial ovens. Once out of the oven, they have to be cooled, and then boxed and moved into finished goods inventory, ready to be sold to customers. Since production is a continuous activity, at the end of the period, there will be some incomplete products which are in the production process but not yet complete. For instance, there will be some dough in the industrial mixer, some cookies which are on the baking sheets but not yet in the oven, some cookies in the oven which are not fully cooked, and some that are cooked but not yet placed into a box. All of these incomplete items are work-in-process items. Recall from a previous video that in process costing systems, the total cost of production is determined at the end of the period. So, at the end of the period, we have to determine the value of all of these complete units as well as the incomplete units. That's where the concept of equivalent units comes in. How do we value completed units in process costing? We take the total cost of direct materials, direct labor, and manufacturing overhead. Again, from a previous video, we know that the cost per unit in process costing is calculated by dividing the total period manufacturing costs by the total units produced during the period. Notice that we use unit cost, the cost of a completed unit. But what about all of these incomplete units? We have to value them at period end also. To do that, we convert the incomplete units into equivalent units. Think about it. 2 half cookies are equal to 1 whole cookie. 2 half cookies are equivalent to 1 whole cookie. That would mean that the value of 2 half cookies are equal to the value of 1 whole cookie. If we know the value of that 1 whole cookie, we can determine the value of the 2 halves. Similarly, 4 half cookies would be equal to 2 whole cookies. That means that 4 half cookies are equivalent in value to 2 whole cookies. We can then use that concept for any number of incomplete cookies. For example, if we had 1,000 cookies which were only 50% complete, we can calculate the equivalent units as 1,000 multiplied by 50%, making those incomplete cookies equivalent to 500 completed cookies. We can then use these equivalent units to determine the value of the incomplete work-in-process inventory. How? When we determine the unit cost, we divide by the total units produced in the period. Total units produced will be the completed units plus the equivalent units. By doing so, we determine not just the value of the completed units, but also the value of the incompleted units, which are in work-in-process inventory. What if we had 2,000 cookies, which were only 20% complete at the end of the period? Could we calculate the amount of equivalent units? Absolutely. 2,000 cookies, which are only 20% complete, are equivalent to 400 completed units. 2,000 multiplied by 20%. We can then use this information to calculate the value of the incomplete cookies at period end. So, what are equivalent units? Equivalent units are a way to measure the amount of work done on units which are incomplete at the end of the accounting period. The basic formula for equivalent units is the number of incomplete physical units multiplied by the percentage of completion. That's it for equivalent units. As always, thanks so much for watching.